Hi and welcome to another edition of Engaged in Conversation with me, Phil Wedgwood. I'm lucky to be joined today by Will Lankston from Timpsons, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation about their business and how their culture is playing a very important part to their success. Will, it's great to meet you today. Thanks very much for coming to our new studio setting here in the Gotham in Manchester. Would you be able to introduce yourself for the audience so they know who you are and the sort of things you're up to at Timpsons at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, firstly, thanks for having me, Phil. I'm Will Lankston. I've been with the Timpson business for 12 years now. I started off working in our shops. The first shop I worked in was Aylesbury, and I've then spent time in all of the different businesses that we now have as part of the group. And my latest sort of job within the business is to look after all of our business-to-business ventures. So I look after our locksmiths business. We have some sizable vending businesses. I look after our web teams and then a lot of our sort of supermarket relationships as well.
Fantastic. And over the last couple of years, as a traditional kind of retailer, really, in many respects, talk me through some of the challenges that you've been through specifically over the last couple of years with the whole COVID thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was speaking about this not so long ago, and I find it quite a difficult subject to speak about because obviously, I suppose on an individual basis, so many people had some really big challenges through that time. For us as a business, it was really difficult because we pride ourselves on treating all of our colleagues as being part of our family. And we had to make some really, really difficult decisions through the pandemic. I know that lots of businesses did. And thankfully, I suppose the country's kind of come out the other side of that and we're seeing the rebound. But from our perspective, it was certainly very difficult to sort of ascertain which parts of the business potentially were going to really thrive through the pandemic, and there weren't very many of them, and which parts of the business we were really going to have to downsize. So yeah, it was a very difficult time.
And so you've been at Timpsons over a decade. Mm-hmm. It's got a really great reputation. It's a family business. It's on every high street pretty much in the whole of the UK, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've noticed when you're out shopping, you're popping up everywhere in new locations. So how many locations have you got in the UK and how many staff have you got now at the moment?
Yeah, so we're just under 2,100 shops across the UK. Of those, almost 2,000 of them are corporately run and operated. And then we've got a business, one of the businesses that forms part of the group is Snappy Snaps. I don't know if you would have heard of it. It's a high-end photographic business, mainly based in London. And that's actually a franchise business. But the rest of the shops we operate ourselves. And that's through a number of different brands. So we've got the Timpson business, which you may have seen on the high street. There's actually one just around the corner from where we are here. Where you can get your keys cut and your shoes repaired and your watch repaired and so on and so forth. We've got the Max Photo business, which it's very similar to Snappy Snaps, but it's a bit cheaper and it's mainly based in the north. We've got the Johnson's dry cleaning business. We've got about 200 of those around the country, which we acquired in 2017. We've got a posh dry cleaner called Jeeves. And we actually hold the royal warrant to now King Charles in that business.
Oh, wow.
And then we've got some weird and wonderful bits as well. So we've got that locksmiths business I talked about. We're actually one of the biggest locksmith companies around the UK. We offer a nationwide service. We've got about 1,000 photo booths in and around supermarkets all over the UK. We've got about 1,000 instant photo printing kiosks where you can go and get the photos off your mobile phone printed. And then we've got 7 barbershops, the barbershops by Timpson, and we can talk a little bit about how we ended up with that. And finally, we've got 3 pubs.
Oh, wow. I didn't realise you had...
Yeah.
Gosh, so what don't you do? I mean,
yeah,
that's phenomenal.
And that's one of the great things about being a family business is that, why did we end up getting into pubs? Because our current chief exec's late mum, Alex, they bought a holiday home on Anglesey and there was nowhere local where they could go and get a nice meal. And so she and our chairman, John Timpson, decided to buy the local pub and they sort of did it up as a passion project. And that grew into us having another restaurant on Anglesey called the Oyster Catcher, where we had an academy and we trained sort of disadvantaged kids how to cook. And then we ended up, just as we went into the pandemic, actually, we ended up reacquiring a hospitality business that we had a stake in. And that has ended up with us having the White Eagle on Anglesey, the Oyster Catcher on Anglesey, and then the Partridge at Stretton, which is sort of in between Manchester and Liverpool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And is there a plan to extend that more nationally now?
Watch this space.
Okay.
There may be plans to expand it, whether that's at home or overseas. Who knows?
Wow. I just love the whole notion that you can pop to the high street, get your keys cut, get your shoes repaired, drop off your dry cleaning, get your hair cut, to get your photos printed.
Yeah.
I mean, also I've seen
and
how
then go for a pint of cobbler ale.
Well, yeah, go for a pint. Also get your phone fixed, because
Yeah.
you do that now too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great transition development of what was I suppose quite classically a very traditional British retailing establishment, isn't it? So that innovation and that change that you've made is really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely, and you hit the sort of nail on the head there. In that you sort of identified one of our biggest challenges, which is how do we communicate to all of our customers and I suppose prospective customers about all of the different services that we offer.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever been into one of our shops, and you've already said that you have, you'll notice that they're very small.
Yes.
So to us, small is beautiful. Real estate comes at a premium, and so we try and squeeze into as small a box as we possibly can, which is, that's also allowed us to get really close to our customers in some of the sort of bigger cities around the UK. But that presents some challenges in that it's difficult to find enough wall space to tell our customers what we do. And we've also traditionally or historically, we've really relied on word of mouth to tell our customers about all the different services we offer. We haven't done much traditional marketing. It's something that we are starting to do more of now, but we're really still finding our feet, and we want to be very careful not to end up coming across as just look at all the different things we do and sort of shoving it down the throats of our customers. Any marketing that we do go on to do is definitely going to be really light touch. It's going to talk about the culture that we're so proud of within the business, and not, just shoving product and service down our customers' throats.
And I think that's one of the things there that comes across strongly from your brand, that sense of culture, that sense of family, that sense of kind of corporate social responsibility. You're doing quite a lot as a brand around that. That's my take on it. I mean, talk me through that. How important is the culture? How deep is it within the organisation?
So culture in our business is absolutely everything. If you were to come and spend an hour at Timpson House, which is our sort of HQ just down the road, I think you'd quickly pick up on, our culture of upside down management and how everybody within the office, they'll always be talking about how can we support the shops. It's so ingrained within people that if you see someone walk past a phone, the whole of the office kind of turns around and looks at them, and they'll have to wear one of the silly phone hats that we've got hanging around the office. But no, culture really is absolutely everything in our business, and it's led so strongly by John and James in that they do not tolerate people that sort of don't fit with the culture. So if anybody, and that's one of the benefits, I suppose, that everybody really in our senior team has come up through the business, that it's rare that you're going to have a kind of cultural misfit. But if it ever does happen, we're pretty brutal on saying you're not right for us, because it's so important to the rest of our business that we look after the culture and that we champion it in everything that we do. We've made a number of acquisitions actually over the last probably 10 or 15 years. And it takes, what we've learned is that whilst you'll start to see the signs of our culture in one of those businesses after a couple of years, because we put all of our benefits in the business, like the free holiday homes and the birthdays off and all of that stuff, for all of the colleagues in that business to actually buy in and for it to be embedded takes about 5 years.
Wow.
And so, that kind of, it helps to, I suppose, illustrate it's not an easy thing to do, and that's why we're so protective of it. In terms of the CSR bit that you mentioned, it's really interesting. It's when I speak to my friends about our business, and I please don't think I'm going down to the pub and all I talk about is Timpson, but When I do speak to my friends about the business, it's one of the things that I think most of them identify with most strongly. They sort of say, if I think about your brand, it's kind of all of the things that you do in terms of CSR that kind of resonate the strongest, which is interesting because for us, we don't really talk about it as CSR. One of the things that I suppose we're known for is the work that we do with ex-offenders in our foundation, or we're now actually saying colleagues with lived experience of prison. And that came because James Timpson went on a tour of a prison. He really liked the guy that was giving him a tour, and so he slipped him his business card and said, "When you're out, I'll give you a job." And he's still with us today. He actually works in a shop not far from here. And so when James realised that there was a huge number of people within prison that they were great personalities, we can train them to do everything that we do within one of our shops, but they're just being ignored because they've got a criminal conviction. We went after it, and we went after it quickly because to us it made really good commercial sense and it was the right thing to do. But I think it's important to note we don't do anything just because it's the right thing to do. There's always a commercial backing to that as well. So sort of everything that we do in terms of CSR, yes, it will be good for the community, it will be good for the individual, but it's also going to be good for business.
Gosh, I mean, there's so much we can talk about there. I mean, in terms of how do you drive that culture? How do you, across a few thousand staff, and you talked about this upside down management. Can you just give us a bit more of an explanation on what that means and how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So upside down management is I suppose, the concept that everybody, the people that serve our customers and kind of bring the money into the business are the most important people in our business. And so everybody else within the business, myself included, right the way up to James and John Timpson, we're all there just to support the colleagues running the shops, and basically to remove any challenges that they face, to make their life as easy as possible so that they can just focus on serving the customer in the way that they see best, and put lots of money in the till. That's upside down management.
Okay. And so how do you sort of join that together across a workforce that's so disparate and so large? What mechanisms how do you actually do that?
Yes, and not just is it disparate and large. One of the I suppose more unique things about our business is that most of our shops are run by one person. And so
Wow.
to drive that engagement in the culture is not easy. I suppose if I think about the sort of the key pillars or what really makes a difference to be able to do that, one is that we absolutely pride ourselves on getting out in the shops. So if I go to the office today, which I am after we record this, the chance of me finding James Timpson sat in his office are slim to none. It's probably 1 in 5 because he spends 1 day a week in the office and 4 days going around the shops.
Really?
He'll
Wow.
visit 700 shops a year. His dad will visit 700 shops a year. And then we've got a team of amazing area managers and what we call area development managers, who all they do all day, every day, is spend time with the colleagues in the shops. They are not sat at their desk doing lots of kind of admin and paperwork. They're getting out, talking to the colleagues, understanding, both from a business and a personal perspective. Are you facing any challenges? Is everything okay at home? Is there anything I can do to help? And that really, I think, is where the kind of the boots on the ground, we're driving the engagement. That combined with sort of how, I suppose, in the last 3 years, we've just slowly starting to leverage a bit of tech. Now, when I say that, it probably sounds more exciting than it actually is. We're using WhatsApp. So one of the tools that we use within the business to communicate with all of our colleagues quickly, and we think quite effectively, is to just send WhatsApp messages. We have area groups for each of the areas around the business. And that's how they sort of share good news, share issues, talk about any challenges that they might be facing.
Yeah, I mean, that's very common in retail, especially using WhatsApp. I mean, I see it in pretty much every business, to be fair. So that's not a surprise that that's being utilised. So how do you train people? Because, looking at it, you say they're run by one person, and yet you can do your shoes, your keys, repair your iPhone, do your dry cleaning. How on earth does one person do all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's quite impressive, right?
It's then when you combine that with our sort of ethos that we recruit entirely on personality. So actually, if you've been a cobbler before, the chances are we don't want you. Because we can train anybody to repair shoes. I say that I was actually terrible at repairing shoes when I worked in the shops. And I was known as office hands because I'd sort of scratch my hand and cry about it like a baby. But yeah, we can train absolutely anybody to repair a shoe, to cut a key, to repair an iPhone. That process to take you from never having done it before to basically being able to do all of those services to a high standard takes 12 months. And that's what enables us to recruit entirely on personality. Now, if you combine that 12-month period with what the sort of normal churn rate in retail, we'd be in big trouble. And that's why culture, the culture that we've built is so important. It's so important that our colleagues buy into that, because then they stay with us for a long, long time. And we don't have that same churn rate that most retailers struggle with.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next question, and still is. So in terms of churn rates, because in retail, you're right, it can be 70%, and you're just constantly chasing your tail, trying to retain and obtain talent. What is your sort of churn rate then? Are you able to share that with us?
Do you know what? If I knew the actual stat,
but roughly, do you know? Like, because it can't be 70%, can it?
No, absolutely not. So the reason I don't know the stat is because it's such a low number, it doesn't even kind of factor in our conversations.
So it's not in your board packs or anything, because it's not.
No, I mean, it's probably a stat that's buried at the back of a paper that I should have read and perhaps haven't, but it's not something that features in our conversations. Wow. We are not talking about churn rate in our board meetings, leadership meetings, really just in any of our day-to-day. Don't get me wrong, we talk about perhaps specific areas of the country where we're really struggling with recruitment. So at the moment, I can tell you that the Northeast is really difficult. And that's right from sort of Newcastle all the way up to Aberdeen. That East Coast is just a challenge for us.
Right.
And then, as I'm sure you can imagine, London and the Southeast is difficult.
Yeah.
But elsewhere in the country, it's getting better, and we're seeing it sort of getting better all the time.
So in terms of UK retail, you must be right up there then with that attrition rate ratio, right? Because who else would you say in your peer group there? What other brands could you think of that have done that so well in that space?
Yeah, so there are lots of other brands that I can think of who would have a really good retention rate and a long sort of average term of service. People like Richer Sounds are a business that we really admire. Greggs are doing a lot more. The John Lewis partnership. There are some really, and these are a lot of these are really well-known businesses. But we're not the only ones kind of doing great things. I suppose it's probably just because we don't do marketing about our traditional services that sort of the thing that most people take away from our brand when they think about the Timpson business is all of the sort of stuff we do for our colleagues, and that's the message that tends to come across.
That's really interesting. So many organisations, they have big head offices. And then they have multiple premises around the place, whether that's across Europe, globally, or just in the UK. And that one of the classic engagement challenges is just that classic. Well, how do we reach out and connect with the wider workforce? But it sounds like with your up-down management style, that actually, if I went to your head office, it sounds like there's hardly anybody there, because they're all out in the field helping your colleagues.
Yeah, so there are lots of people there. And we've actually really sort of driven and pushed for all of our colleagues to come into the office from quite an early start, kind of post-pandemic. One, because it's, we're there to support the colleagues in the shops. They're all out there serving our customers. We need to be there to answer the phone if they ring or basically help them with any problems they might have. So that's one reason. The second reason is that, people going into the office is really good for our business. We like people to walk on their commute and perhaps required to get their shoe repaired. We like people to wear suits and ties. All of that's really good for our dry cleaning business. And so for us to sort of say everybody work from home is kind of going against what we'd really like everybody to get back to doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so you've got very deep physical engagement with your staff. That's one thing that I'm taking away, which maybe is better than other businesses, say, right, where there is that wider disconnect. So what other mechanisms do you have to streamline communications or obtain feedback? Because you're doing that very much at that management layer, aren't you?
Yeah.
And is that effectively brought back and aggregated into head office?
Yeah, so we have two really important measures in the business. So we do something called the Happy Index. We do it once a year. And effectively what we're doing is asking every colleague in the business, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with the support you're getting from your line manager or from your area team? And so when we do that, in terms of kind of how we assess the performance of our area managers or our area teams, you can survive having bad figures in our business. You really can survive having bad figures, because we know that we can help you with that. It's really rare that you'll come back from having 2 bad happy indexes on the trot, because that's when we start to realize perhaps and often it would be our fault. We've over promoted someone into a position that they're not ready for yet. But that's sort of, in terms of a measure, the happy index is kind of what an area manager lives and dies by. So that's one really important way that we go out and get feedback, but that is only once a year. The other thing that we've started doing quite recently is how are you feeling survey, which happens once a week. And really what that is on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? And our average last week, I think, was 8.6, which, in my books is pretty good given everything that's going on in the country right now. And that's not how happy are you necessarily with just about business. But the way that we're using that tool is really so that when an area manager looks at those scores on a Friday, they can very quickly see if there are any shops where we might have a colleague who's struggling with something outside of work. And straight away they can get on the phone to say, look, I've seen that you put in a score that's you're not very happy this week. Talk to me about why that is. And so, if I compare those two things with traditional or other businesses, we probably don't get very much feedback at all, and we're not poring over kind of dashboards of data, but they are two of the most important measures, because we know if we've got happy colleagues in the shops on a weekly basis who are being looked after by their area teams, and they're all really happy with the support that they're getting over the course of a year from their line manager or their area teams, the rest of the business is going to look after itself. The money's going to look after itself.
It will, yeah. I mean, it's that classic, I talk about the 3 C's of engagement. So that's engaging with the audiences that matter most in your business, and they are your colleagues and your customers and your wider community. And I think that resonates with any business. And the question is how do you break that down and how do you enable it in the most effective way? And I think with your business, you've got that nice balance there. You've clearly got everyone knows that happy staff equals happy customers, especially in retailing where you're directly interfacing with the customer. So that's really good to hear. Do you have recognition? How do you bring to life recognition through the workforce?
So we do lots of different things. I suppose because of the approach we take to running the business in general, which is we just trust people to get on with it. We have 2 rules. It's act the part, and that's turning up to work on time and wearing the right uniform and smelling good and all of the stuff that kind of is just common sense, and put the money in the till. Other than that, it really is get on with it and do what you want. And so in terms of recognition, it really varies across the group. I'll talk about some of the sort of the things that we do everywhere, but it will depend quite a lot upon who the sort of the person running that part of the business is. Because we give them total freedom to sort of go on and recognise their colleagues however they see fit. So that might be, paying for them to go out for dinner with their family. It might be, sending them. We've had colleagues being sent on holiday and all sorts by area managers. But in terms of what we do that's sort of everywhere in the business, we've got the scratch cards. So whenever someone's done a great job, or I feel that one of my team, for example, have done a great job, you can give them a scratch card, and there are lots of different prizes, Timpson prizes that can be won. It's anything from a meal out on James to a couple of £100. That's the sort of prize that you can win there. We've got a dreams come true system, which is, whilst that sounds like it's sort of by chance, you will not win a dreams come true unless you're an amazing colleague. And we've done all sorts of things as part of that. So we've helped people pay for surgery. We've sent people to be reunited with their families in Australia. We've done all sorts of things. And then we also have the Timpson Lottery, which is effectively every week we give £1,000 to a colleague at random. But I would tend to say again that we're not going to see any colleagues that perhaps are not our superstar colleagues winning that lottery.
Wow, that's great.
And then there's other stuff which I've just forgotten, to be honest with you.
I'm sure there's loads.
There's lots of stuff that we try to do to look after our colleagues and tell them when they've done a great job.
That's fantastic. Do you know, it's really coincidental, but this morning on LinkedIn, a story came into my feed about Timpson, and you were being recognised. I think it was in one of the Birmingham stores, and someone had gone to get their keys cut, and then they'd gone back, say 4 or 5 days later, to get another set cut, and the chap was saying, "Oh gosh, have you lost them already? You know, you were only in here the other day." And she says, "No, I've got my granddad's ill and he's moved in, and we need an extra set for the carers and things like this." And so he handed her the envelope, and she went to pay, and he says, "No, it's fine. It's on us." And when she opened it, the key was in there with a little rainbow key ring. And I just thought, gosh, it's these powerful little stories that you're in the community where you're really impacting people's lives. Something simple like that can make a really big difference to someone's day. And it's interesting because the last podcast I did was with Andrew Thorpe, and we were talking about the power of storytelling in business. And one of the things is capturing stories like that because they can be really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting that you kind of bring up that story around the keys. It's for us. So lots of businesses, because they have lots of rules, and normally they've put these rules in place because something's gone wrong once, and they're like, we need a rule to make sure that doesn't happen again. Whereas we're very much sort of trust people to get on with it. We don't like having rules, and we just have those two that I've already mentioned. Because we're letting people serve customers the way that they see fit, effectively, if you have great personalities in the business, stuff like that is going to happen all the time. And yet we do actively encourage colleagues to give stuff away for free because we know how much that drives loyalty with our customers. But we don't really need to spend too much time talking about it because we make sure we get great people in the shops, and then they know that if someone's having a really bad day or they've suffered a bereavement and they're looking to get photos printed for the funeral or whatever it might be, they're just going to say, "Look, today it's on the house."
That's great. Yeah, because Pret gets a lot of press for doing that, don't they? They have the button on the till that says give it away, but they do dashboard it, I understand. So, yeah. But it's really getting that balance because I'm sure it could be abused as well. So it's hard, isn't it? But it goes back to that culture of trust, empowerment, getting the right personalities in the business.
Yeah, and look, we're I suppose to a degree we're lucky in that we're not a John Lewis that's selling £1,000 TVs and even more attractive things like iPhones.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if people are sort of abusing it in our business, they're taking home leather soles and brass key blanks, which is not going to be that exciting. I think the cash is probably the most exciting thing to perhaps tempt colleagues to steal within our business. It does still happen, right? But we're not that worried about creating a rule to worry about, because people might abuse giving stuff away for free. We're more about, look, if someone's having a bad day, or if they're a regular customer, or if you just like the look of them, give them stuff away for free. That's all in the colleague's gift. So I'd encourage you, the next time you go into a Timpson, one, ask for a discount. We always encourage people to go and see if they can have a bit of a haggle. It's good fun. Oh, wow. If you're going to ask for a discount, I suggest do it on a Thursday afternoon because that's our end of week. So I'll probably be really pushing to get the figure. And the second is, see if you can get a freebie. That's the challenge.
Wow, some great money-saving tips here from Will. Thank you for those. So have you found that culture under more pressure recently with the whole cost of living and, both from a business level, because you operate bricks and mortar retailing, so you have a cost base there, don't you? But also from the staffing perspective.
Absolutely. So we spoke about the sort of the real challenges that we faced going through COVID. I suppose we've come out of that, and there are new challenges. So inflation is going mad. The cost of our goods has really increased. we're under pretty sustained pressure from lots of our suppliers, all over the world. And it's really difficult for us to, you're walking that tightrope of making sure that you're still offering value for money to our customers, making sure that we're still, we're charging enough to run a profitable business that can look after its colleagues, but not overcharging our customers given the current climate. There's, sort of a famous quote within our business from our chairman, which is that, when you're going through periods of inflation like this, you've sort of got to put your price up twice a year to survive. We're doing that on a more granular level. So we're really looking into each product and service as we're getting new prices coming in from our suppliers. But it's really tough. It's not easy, and I think we're probably facing another 12 months of at least of really challenging times.
It is tough, isn't it? So operating the classic kind of retailing model where you're in every high street pretty much, how does that go around the whole digital enablement? Because I think there's certain bits of your business where, I'll give you an example. I worked with printing.com a number of years back, and I remember they closed the M6 because they pulled in this humongous printer into Trafford down the road, and they broke the business model of every high street having printing equipment, and changed it and said, well, actually, we bring the file into the high street, but we'll print it and then send it to you. And it's that kind of centralisation, obviously fueled by digital and modern manufacturing. Are there any similarities to that in your model?
So look, I suppose I'm going to break that down into two bits. I think I'll talk about the digital, the sort of how the centralization piece first, and then some examples of, I suppose, how we use digital within the group. So talking about the centralization piece, so we've got quite a sizable online photo business, that sort of is in support of the photo business in the shops. And that's under those brands that I've already mentioned, so Max Photo, but then we also own Tesco Photo Online. So if you ever go on Tesco Photo Online, that's actually us. And then Snappy Snaps. And what we find that's really interesting, we offer a really similar sort of level of service to our competitors. You would have probably seen the likes of Photobox and Snapfish and Freeprints. And they're great businesses, by the way.
Yeah.
But what we find really interesting is that although we can sort of match that level of service in that you can go online, you can order a product and have it shipped to your home in a few days because they are personalised products, it's difficult to do them sort of overnight. 85% of our sales in those businesses go into our shops. So that's where customers are either ordering their prints online and going to pick them up in the store, or they're ordering a gift, it's being fulfilled within the branch. So you might order a mug, the colleague in the store is making that mug, and the customer's going to pick it up. And that's our sort of USP, and we're actually talking to some of the other sort of players in this industry around how they might be able to leverage our retail estate, because no one else does it quite like us. And so certainly kind of the click and collect angle is a big one for us, rather than it being centralized. We do actually have a central facility, but it's more to support the shops than it is anything else. And then talking about sort of digital enablement and how we use digital across the group, to be totally honest with you, it's limited. And the reason it's limited, I suppose, is that we've been very conscious historically that we don't want to remove those face-to-face conversations that we know are so important between colleagues in our business, most importantly between the area manager and the colleagues working in the branches. That is a really key conversation that we don't want to stop. But we have over the years really slowly started to sort of creep digital into the business, where colleagues tell us it's going to have the biggest impact on their day-to-day. So one example of that would be if you went into Timpson House on a Friday or a Monday about 7 or 8 years ago, you would have seen a sea of paperwork which had come out of the branches being sent on the Friday morning following the end of week on a Thursday night. What used to happen was colleague in the shop closes down the week on a Thursday evening, they do their paperwork, they're writing all the sales down on this huge A3 sheet. I used to hate completing them. huge A3 sheet. They then put that in the envelope, send it to Timpson House, and then our colleagues in the finance team, they tap away and enter. So there's a huge amount of data duplication. So we knew we had a problem with Timpson House, but more importantly, we had this massive problem where the poor colleagues in the shops were having to do this massive sales report on triplicate paper. If you made a mistake, you ripped it up and started again. It was awful. And so the first thing that we actually did in our business that was a step towards digital, because we still use totally old-fashioned tills, like a calculator with a till drawer, was to start a digital sales report on something called Barney's Dashboard. And Barney's just one of our lead developers who developed it, the whole Barney's Dashboard, which is why we've named it after him. So the first thing that we did, sort of first toe that we stuck in the water, was to put the sales report on there. And then over time, that's evolved. So now, if you walk into one of our shops, colleagues can use that to get pricing. There's training information on the dashboard. They can use it to do their sort of bonus claims every week. They can order their stock using the dashboard. And we're just evolving that all the time, as and when we get requests from the colleagues, which are normally driven by, do you know what? I do this 5 times today, and it just really pisses me off.
Yeah.
And so those requests tend to be the things where we say we need to do something on the dashboard for that.
Yeah. No, I get that. We see that a lot. So I kind of liken that to digital enablement. Really, the basic stuff, trying to modernize that a little bit to make everyone's life easier, isn't it? Rather than going stupidly to town and overcomplicating everything.
Yeah, and look, I suppose I'm a bit of a techie, so I have some quite big aspirations for where we could go as a business with tech. It's never going to be anything that gets in the way of the colleagues, or you're never going to walk into a Timpson and be served by a robot, or at least not in my lifetime, and we would never want that. But I think we do have some sizable opportunities in our business, because we're coming from quite far behind, to probably improve productivity, improve the level of service that we give our customers, and just in general offer a better experience for customers and colleagues working within the business.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love the rates there of the customer engagement with your staff, with the physical locations, because I think over the last 2-3 years, we have kind of seen the rebirth of the local high street, and the fact you're there and have always been there, you're like a go-to trusted brand, aren't you? And the fact people like that interaction and a sense that even though you could do stuff remotely and centralized, you're showcasing there that actually people prefer that physical interaction, that picking up and speaking to somebody. And I think that's often nice, because we're seeing in a lot of areas that is just disappearing in a lot of industries. And people are it's cycles, isn't it? It's going back to that, connecting with the people, having a chat, having that interaction. And the fact that you're there with that location density, you're perfectly positioned to take advantage of that.
Yeah, look, we've got lots and lots of shops around all over the UK and Ireland. Lots of those shops are on the high street, and I think you're right. In many cases, the high street, it's getting better. Yeah, there is still some real common sense things that we feel, that both local councils and government can do to improve the high street. We still don't quite know what's going to happen with business rates next year, and that's a huge issue for a retailer like us, and every other retailer and business on the high street, and in a physical premises, full stop.
Yeah.
But we've also been really lucky in that we work really closely with the supermarkets. So we're with a number of supermarkets around the UK, and that has been sort of pretty crucial to the rapid expansion of our shop network over the last 15 years. We have a lot to thank the supermarkets for, and we know that when they ask their customers what services they see as being most important to them, we're one of the most important within those supermarkets too. So we've got a really good relationship with the supermarkets, and it's really helped us grow as we have done.
That's great. And I imagine that you'd get a lot of people wanting to work with you when you're present in those locations. Did you find that happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get probably 20 or 30 weird and wonderful requests each week for either I've got this product and I'll always look at it. So if you I almost made the mistake of putting my email address on the website the other day, which I've not done. But if you can work out my email, it's not that difficult. And you do have a crazy idea, I will look at it and I will, we'll definitely give it some consideration. But yes, because of where we are, all of those sort of, those little services that people want to offer customers in hyper convenient locations, whether it be a charging bank for a phone or an advertising this or an advertising that. One of those parcels that we actually do offer is a parcel pickup and collection service. We're quite an attractive business for that because we tend to be well located, whether that's on the high street or in supermarkets. We're better located than lots of retailers on the high street because, as I said earlier, we're so small. So if you take a shopping centre as an example, when we talk to shopping centre planners and they're asking us, will we like unit X or unit Y, we're saying, using that broom cupboard. We'll go in there because it tends to be well located and it's too small for anybody else to get in it.
And so I suppose there is a natural opportunity though, or thinking that let's go bigger unit because we can do more. Do you see that happening, or do you think that just keeping the size sensible is actually advantageous, period?
Look, at the moment, rents have really declined since the pandemic. Everybody knows that the high street rent is a lot lower than it was pre-pandemic. So, some retailers might take advantage of that now and perhaps go for a slightly larger space. I think that potentially that would be a bit of a shame because you might see, worse tenant mixes on the high street. I'd rather see, lots of little units doing lots of different things. For us, we're never going to be a big box retailer. The biggest it gets for us is having, we do a Timpson Plus, which is, a shop where you've got Timpson and Max services in the same location. But, to us, small really is beautiful. And it's been really crucial to us being able to run, a conservative, profitable business, because if we'd have been exposed to some of the rents that, big box retailers were exposed to going into the pandemic, it could have been a much worse story than it was for us.
Yeah. And I noticed with the hairdressing element, or barbers, is that barber hairdressing both? I mean, how do you...
It's a barbershop.
Barbershop, yeah. Am I right in saying that they're kind of in a porter cabin? Yeah. So you can just drop them in a location, try it. If it doesn't work, move it. I mean, I thought that's fantastic innovation, being able to move retailing units around like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, when I talked about sort of our relationship with the supermarkets and how that's helped us grow, a lot of those supermarket shops that we talk about are in what we call pods, so those porter cabins, and that you've hit the nail on the head. Being able to, if a shop doesn't perform well, which to be honest with you is rare. I mean, we don't pick them up and move them very often, but you do have that option. If something goes wrong, you can pick it up and put it somewhere else. And so we have lots of Timpson shops in those. We've got quite a few Mac shops in those. And all of our barbershops by Timpson are in the pods as well. Yeah. And you'll see now quite a few other retailers are doing pods too.
As soon as you see it, you just think, bloody great idea, because the car parks are huge, aren't they? And there's loads of, you can imagine that in a few years' time, there'll be a whole stack of these pods from all the different brands, because it's such a great cost-effective way.
Which is, when you say that the supermarkets, they all have huge car parks, you're absolutely right, which is why we often encounter the car park planning groups of, because you've got to be very specific about where you site these locations, and there's quite a few other considerations that the supermarkets have to think about. But you will see more and more of these pods popping up. There's other barbershop businesses that have got these pods in supermarkets. We Buy Any Car, you'll see their pods popping up around supermarkets. So whilst we, I suppose, were early adopters of the pod, lots of others are going to follow in our footsteps.
Yeah, fantastic. If there was a top tip that you could give to any business in terms of driving colleague engagement, what would that be?
I would probably have to, and it's going to sound obvious, and it's going to sound like everybody does it, but I actually don't think many businesses do it really, really well, and that is be uncompromising on looking after your people and setting that as the benchmark for how you measure everybody's performance. So if you do it yourself and you make it the only option for the people that work for you, I think that you'll build a very successful business.
Thanks for listening to Engaged in Conversation. It was presented by our CEO, Phil Wedgwood. For more news and updates on Engage, visit our website at engagesolutionsgroup.com.